Hey guys, Britt here. Welcome to End Times Bible Prophecy. Make sure to hit the subscribe, like, and share buttons. Well, this is a very clear sign of the end times that we're approaching the 7-year tribulation. So what am I talking about? Well, this is a news story we've covered in the past, but there's a new development. So what is it? It's this right here. It says first human Neuralink implant a success. Musk says initial results are promising. It says Elon Musk on Monday announced that the first human patient has received a brain implant from his startup Neuralink, which according to Musk enables control of your phone or computer and through them almost any device just by thinking. So let's see what he says about this. He tweeted out, the first Neuralink product is called telepathy. It enables control of your phone or computer and through them almost any device just by thinking. Initial users will be those who have lost the use of their limbs. So we've talked about this in the past. When they launched this, the stated reason was we're going to create this brain-computer interface for those who are blind, those who are paralyzed, those who are deaf, and we're going to try to restore these natural abilities that human beings have lost. And I think the focus was those who were paralyzed, which is what he's saying here, those who have lost the use of their limbs. But notice how he says initial users. And if you remember when we covered this in the past, he said that it was for all the reasons that I just stated, but he said, I'm going to get one too, right? You think, well, Elon Musk, I'm unaware, is blind, deaf, or paralyzed in any way. So why is he going to get one? So let's read on and see what else it has to say. Because I think this next statement he makes tells us where we're going. He says, imagine if Stephen Hawking could communicate faster than a speed typist or auctioneer. That is the goal. And I would say, well, what does this have to do with that? Because think about if you created this interface for Stephen Hawking, he would be able to communicate, he would in better ways than he was during his lifetime. But would it make his brain process things faster? So fast that he could communicate like a auctioneer? You know, most physicists don't speak at the speed of auctioneers. But guys, that's where we're heading because, as I've said before, it's not artificial intelligence that should be your great concern and the rise of AI. It's the merger of human beings and AI. So once this brain-computer interface is put into place and it becomes commonplace, then, as he said, this will enable you to connect to your phone, your computer, and therefore any device just by thinking. And that means you would be able to interface with AI and you would be able to do what they call augmenting your intelligence. So this is part of the process that transhumanists talk about when they talk about a post-human world, because they believe in monkeys to man evolution, and they believe the next stage in that process is augmented post-biological human beings. No doubt, that's what he's hinting at here when he talks about Stephen Hawking talking like a typist or auctioneer. So let's read on. It says, the Neuralink brain implant called telepathy was designed to help people with traumatic brain injuries operate electronic devices only with their thoughts. Again, this is great. There's nothing wrong with this in and of itself. This is restoring one of the natural functions that God designed for us. So this is no different than getting a prosthetic limb or a pacemaker, until you start going beyond that and saying, well, Elon Musk says he's going to get one too. That's where the problem comes up. So it says it uses ultrafine threads to help transmit signals. In May, the company received FDA approval to conduct human trials in a study which uses a robot to surgically place a brain-computer interface implant in an area of the brain that controls our ability to move. The company announced late last year that it was recruiting patients with quadriplegia caused by cervical spinal cord injury, or ALS. Musk said the initial results of the implant show promising neuron spike detection. He says here in this tweet, the first human received an implant from Neuralink yesterday and is recovering well. Initial results showed promising neuron spike detection. According to Kip Ludwig, co-director of the Wisconsin Institute for Translational, Wisconsin Institute for Translational Neuroengineering at the University of Wisconsin, neuron spike detection means the company is receiving data from the patient's brain, adding that monkeys with the implants have been able to play computer games with their brains alone. So this is where we're headed, guys. Is think of all the people who are thinking, oh, I can't wait to get this so that I can play my favorite video game without having to use my hands on the controller. Or, hey, I can scroll Facebook or look at TikTok videos just by thinking about them, right? I can look at funny cat videos just by thinking about it, right? That'll make a lot of people excited, not me necessarily, I'm sure not you, but it says, for several years, Musk has said that implanting a human with his device was imminent. In July 2019, he predicted surgery in a human head by year's end. Meanwhile, other companies such as Synchron moved ahead implanting their own devices into human brains, opening Neuralink to the suggestion it was falling behind. Monday's news will likely blunt that criticism. The long timetable underscores how tough the task ahead is for Neuralink. The startup's chips aim to go less than 2 millimeters into the brain. That's still deeper than many other systems, such as the one in development from Precision Neuroscience, which sits on top of the brain tissue. So this, rather than being beside, parallel to the human brain, this is actually going into. So it is integrating with. It says last June, Neuralink was valued at $5 billion. We don't need to read the rest of this. It's more about the business side of it. But guys, this has profound implications, I believe, for Bible prophecy, for the end times, the tribulation period, and what we should expect in the days leading up to the return of Jesus. So let's look at why I think that in some ways, and let's look at some Bible verses. So this first one I want to look at is from Luke chapter 7, verses 20 through 22. It says, John's 2 disciples found Jesus and said to him, John the Baptist sent us to ask, are you the Messiah we've been expecting, or should we keep looking for someone else? At that very time, Jesus cured many people of their diseases, illnesses, and evil spirits, and he restored sight to many who were blind. Then he told John's disciples, go back to John and tell him what you have seen and heard. The blind see, the lame walk, those with leprosy are cured, the deaf hear, the dead are raised to life, and the good news is being preached to the poor. Guys, this was enough. When John heard this, he said, Jesus is the Messiah. Any doubts he had were erased. The world is going to encounter the Antichrist at a time period where the trends we're seeing take place right now tell us that technologically a lot of the things that Jesus just described will also appear. The blind will see, the deaf will hear, the lame will walk, diseases and illnesses will be cured as a result of the technologies we're seeing emerge right now. And I know that many of you will say, well, it's a long way from this interface where you can control a video game and all of these things being cured. No doubt about it. But guys, we're not talking 100 years in the future. Well, this is the first step, and 100 years from now they'll have all this. Because keep in mind, we're seeing exponential change take place. And it's hard for the human mind to grasp exactly what that means. But if you look at an exponential curve, you'll notice it trots along. You almost can't tell in the early phases that anything is happening or changing at all. And then all of a sudden, toward the end, that curve goes vertical in nature, meaning the overwhelming majority of the change takes place in the last few time increments. So we're going to see a very compressed time frame in the days ahead, the months and years ahead, where we see these tremendous breakthroughs in technology, especially now that we're seeing artificial intelligence come onto the scene. We're going to see that used to model a lot of different technologies, carry out a lot of experiments that otherwise in the past used to take PhD scientists years in a lab to discover one thing, can now be done by AI in a matter of minutes. And so we're going to see this huge expansion of technological discovery. It's going to take us in just a few short years from where we're at this crude stage, seemingly crude stage of we're going to have this brain-computer interface to people will be it will be commonplace for many people to merge with the technologies around them, merge with artificial intelligence, and create a world that is indistinguishable from the one that we live in today. No doubt about it. So again, why is this relevant to Bible prophecy? Let's take a look at what Jesus said here in Matthew 24, verses 23 through 25. He says, "Then if anyone tells you, 'Look, here is the Messiah,' or 'There he is,' don't believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will rise up and perform great signs and wonders so as to deceive, if possible, even God's chosen ones. See, I've warned you about this ahead of time." So no doubt false prophets, false messiahs have come since Jesus spoke those words. They will continue to come. But the ultimate false messiah is going to be the Antichrist. And again, he will be able to achieve wonders so phenomenal that if possible, they would deceive born-again Christians who understand the truth, who know the Bible. Of course, that won't happen because it's not possible. They will be rooted in the Bible and know that. But the rest of the world will be ripe to this deception as we see in a whole new world created by these technologies. We've talked in the past about molecular manufacturing and the abilities of that to what it would give the nation or nations that possess that first. They would have not just the ability to conquer the earth, but they will have to conquer the earth because of the implications of that. Can't get into all that right now, but if you have a conquered earth and you have people saying, who can make war against this person who's conquered the earth? Well, in a way, you have world peace. And so if you have somebody appear who creates world peace, and in tandem with that world peace, all these technologies have eliminated disease and blindness and paralysis and deafness and all of these ills that have plagued humanity for centuries, and they claim, I am your Savior, I am your God, many people will believe that. They will be deceived. Jesus is warning us. Those people will be deceived. And in fact, in verse 22, right before the passage we just read, he says, unless those days are shortened, no flesh would survive. And when we think about that conventionally, traditionally, when we think about that verse, people interpret it as, unless Jesus comes back, the human race will be wiped out. It will wipe itself out through war or some other issue. But remember, the Bible, book of Revelation tells us people will say, who can make war against the beast? And the book of Daniel tells us that the Antichrist won't be defeated by human power, but by the return of Jesus Christ. So verse 22 in Matthew 24 doesn't necessarily mean humanity will destroy itself. It says no flesh would survive. Could it be because we see this transhumanist movement that we hear Yuval Noah Harari and the WEF crowd talking about, and we hear Elon Musk advocating in this very press release when he says, well, Stephen Hawking, imagine him talking like an auctioneer. That's an augmentation of a natural ability. It's going beyond what God designed and what he created. That's the transhumanist mindset and what they're hoping to achieve. And so as humans start to merge with technology, we're going to approach a point where, well, would any flesh survive as people go down this road to turn themselves into gods? Because that's what they think. All you have to do is listen to what the transhumanists are telling us. And guys, the technological trends are taking us there. And again, I know this news development it's an early stage development. So we can look at it and say, we're going a long way from one human having this implant and being able to control a phone or a computer with their mind and all of the things you're talking about, Britt. But keep in mind, yes, there's a long way to go, but the time frame in which that takes place is not that long, guys. We're talking, you could have complete movement to transhumanism within 20 years, where there is no flesh surviving. Based on the things that the stated goals the transhumanist community wants, that's how quickly all this can happen. Because again, we're looking at exponential change. And if any of you have seen the video we looked at before where Chris Martenson talked about exponential change, and he used the visualization of the baseball stadium, and you take an eyedropper and you put a single drop of water on the pitcher's mound, and then the next minute you double it to 2 drops of water, and you double it every minute. Well, I think it's by minute 50, the entire stadium is filled with overflowing with water. Right? But most people don't realize that it's by minute 45, there's just a little puddle in the infield. So it's that last 5 minutes of the 50 minutes where all the change happens, the monumental change that shocks people. They're sitting around, they think, well, these things are happening, but they're so far off, and then all of a sudden it comes upon them quickly. Like what? Like birth pains. So what we're witnessing, guys, is birth pains. Birth pains are exponential in nature. Jesus said the time leading up to his coming would be like birth pains, meaning they increase in frequency and intensity as you near the point of the birth. So as we near the point of Jesus and his return at the end of the 7-year tribulation, we're going to see an increase in the frequency and intensity of all these things we've been talking about. And technology is a prime example of that exponential curve and what's taking place. So all the technological development we've seen through human history, imagine the equivalent of that happening in a year. On an exponential curve, eventually you get to that point. And that's what people are talking about when they mention the singularity. It's this point in time where technological change is so rapid that it's beyond the ability of the unaided human mind to even comprehend it. And so we can see that event horizon, we can see that event just over the horizon. We're not that far away from it. And we're going to see increases, rapid increases in the rate of technological change and progress, or what people might call progress, as we lead up to this time, guys. So that tells me we are getting nearer to the tribulation period. Guys, I believe Jesus comes back for the church before the tribulation. So that means the rapture is even closer. So guys, we should be doing everything we can to tell as many people as possible about the hope that we have in Jesus Christ, because guys, when you have Jesus, you have everything. You can have the whole world. It's meaningless unless you know Jesus, unless he is your Lord and Savior. So guys, spread the good news to as many people as you can. Again, I believe this is a very clear sign of the times in which we live, especially when you take it together with all the other signs Jesus and the prophets said to look for that are converging right here in our generation, in our day and time. And this is just one more. So what do you think? Leave your comments below. Are you going to get one of these brain implants so you can look at cat videos on YouTube just by thinking about them? Imagine you could just think about or your favorite pet videos, right? You can just think about it and it'll appear in your mind and play out for you. Or maybe you want to be on TikTok, right? Spend your time on TikTok. Guys, I joke about it, but there's people who just can't wait for that, right? They're the same people we see who can't put their phones down, right? They just can't put it down. So in a way, they've already merged with that technology because they just can't put the phone down. So let me know what you think. Leave your comments below. Thanks for watching. Make sure to hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. And God willing, I will see you on Friday. Bye. If you want to learn more about the end times and Bible prophecy, make sure to sign up for my free monthly newsletter and get your copy of my free ebook, 7 Signs of the End Times. Just follow the link in the description to get your free book. Also, make sure to check out all of my books. Just look up Britt on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple iBooks, Google Books, Kobo, or anywhere books are sold. Thanks for watching today, and until next time, keep your eyes fixed on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith.